Hey, welcome to the Dog Den. I am Cara Ackberg. I'm an author and advocate for rescue dogs, and I am the co-host of this, although I am not the one with the answers. The one with the answers is the indomitable Crystal Dunn, who is my favorite trainer, and hopefully yours too. And we have a really great topic today. But first, Crystal, tell them who you are, where they can find you, and what you're all about.
I'm just here for all the nice intros that you give me. I am Crystal Dunn, and I have a podcast called Far Fetched. It's a dog pod, and it's all about dog myths and misconceptions. And you can find this episode on that same feed right now, wherever you listen. So,
yay. So today's topic is a really, really good one. And it's a really timely one. And I'm going to lead into it. I'm going to tell a little quick story, but I'm going to tell the topic is crate training, which is a hot topic. I know this because I fostered over, almost 200 dogs. And I get the question a lot. I say to everybody, this dog is crate trained. I don't think a single one of my foster dogs left my house not crate trained. And I stressed how important it was. Now, the puppies were not, okay? The puppies were not, but I did stress how important it was to crate train for a lot of reasons. Like when they're puppies, it's because we don't want them to wreck your house. But I learned firsthand recently when my dog had an awful accident. He put his feet through a glass window, sliced up his legs terribly, sliced a tendon, cut arteries. I mean, we were here, thank God, and we got him to an ER, and he had some extensive surgery. And the vet said to me, when she was telling me what was going to happen and how much money it was going to cost and all of that, she said, keeping him still afterwards is going to be critical. And I said, okay, but he's crate trained. And she said, thank God. She said, so many people come in here with their dogs having had some traumatic accident or been in an accident, in car accident, whatever reason they end up in the ER. And the recovery is it's so important that they be still. And if they're not crate trained, that's really difficult. And she just said, I don't know how people do it who aren't crate trained. Thank goodness he's crate trained. And it was a really good thing that we were able to keep him very, very still because of that. So that's just a side note. Not only should you crate train your dog for reasons like we talked in one episode about preparing them for boarding, also keeping puppies safe, keeping your house safe, and in the unfortunate event that your dog were to have surgery, it's important that they're crate trained. So today we're going to talk about crate training, how to best crate train your dog. Crystal, take it away.
Yeah, this is kind of a big one too, because there's many different stages that a dog can go into crate training at. You've got puppies that are just getting started in life and they have no preconceived notions about what's normal. And that's always the easiest time to start, of course, because you're kind of establishing that normal with them. So if you have a puppy, my advice is always start crate training right away, as young as possible. Start with an X pen with mama so that they get used to the idea of just the look of kind of a crate or pen setting. And then from there, start transitioning into a crate while you're potty training and stuff too. And it's another great use for crate training, right? Is because if you're potty training a dog, a crate's one of the only ways, and keeping them confined is one of the only ways to teach them how to control their bladder and wait to go outside. Dogs are naturally very neat animals. They're usually going to wait and hold their bladder until they're outside of a crate. So that's why crates are really effective for potty training too. But beyond that, crates are going to help manage your destructive behaviors and everything too. So as your puppy's growing up, they're gradually spending more time in there. One big mistake that ends up happening is a lot of people only put the puppy or the young dog in the crate when they leave the house. So then the dog starts associating crate time with being alone and you leaving. And that can be a really negative association. They start to build up over time. So we want to try and put the dog in for naps and stuff when you're actually home and desensitize them to you moving around the crate, things like that too. There's tons of really great videos out there that you can look up on YouTube, just like crate games and stuff that you can play. I call it the in and out game, where you just toss the treat in, puppy goes in, gets the treat, they get to come right back out. Then you slowly desensitize them to the door shutting behind them, so on and so forth. But in short, like if you're having them spend time in there with their mother, if you're having them spend time in there when they first come to your house alone, and their toys are in there at first, and their water and their food might be in there at first when they're really small, that really becomes kind of a home base for them, a very comfortable kind of den-like setting, right? There's a lot of talk in dog training about like, well, that's their den. They don't hate it. They won't hate it if it's presented to them in a positive light. If you accidentally counter condition them to hating it, then they will hate it. If they only have to go in there when they're in trouble or when they're going to be alone, they're not going to dig it. So try to put them in there. Think of it like toddlers need naps. Baby dogs need naps, and they're not always going to tell you. It's usually when they get real mouthy that they need a nap. They just need to go in there for sometimes just 15 minutes at a time just to chill out, sometimes a couple hours. So that like kind of randomizing of using it at first and playing those crate games and making it a light, fun experience for them can be really, really helpful in introducing a kennel. Beyond that, when you're taking a new dog into your house, a lot of times they're not kennel trained, right? So you're starting with a dog who's mature, maybe a dog who's been in a shelter and already has a negative association with being contained. Those dogs can have a much harder time acclimating to a kennel. And those are usually the cases where you might need to bring in a professional to help guide you through it if needed. I've met dogs that had such negative associations with a kennel that they could not use them at first. And it took months and months and months to acclimate them, which can be really problematic when you have a destructive dog in that environment too. So in those cases, I usually had a kennel present and the dog had to stay in a smaller room where they could be contained. But introducing a dog to the kennel that's more mature is a gentler process for sure. But it's also an urgent one, just like it is with a puppy. You can't bring your new rescue dog home, let them get comfortable on the bed and the couch because you feel sorry for them, set these new expectations in this new environment and expect them to 3 days later just go into kennel training, right? So the second you get home, that dog is starting to learn going in and out of the kennel, playing kennel games, finding their food in their kennel or eating in their kennel as a whole. Those things can really help acclimate them to that environment and help them accept that this is just part of their deal. And if you can do it for these really short bursts of time, you can also help them understand that this isn't like a forever thing. They're not going to be stuck in there for hours upon hours on end for the rest of their lives, which is all some of them really have to associate with a kennel, especially if they spent most of their time in a shelter. So yeah, those are kind of my takes on kennel training and how to introduce it. I do want to stress, reach out for help if your dog has such a negative association with the kennel that they're destroying it or that they're getting out of it. I've worked with a lot of pit bulls who could take down a kennel, no problem. Mm-hmm. Like I've gone to houses where the kennel was literally, it looked like it'd been run over by a Mack truck.
That's a scary thing too, when they can do that because they can get hurt. And I'm going to throw a few things in here just because I have so much great experience from fostering.
Yeah.
We always use zip ties to zip tie the corners of our kennels because that's where they break out. So we would use zip ties and we zip tie both sides, all corners and down the sides, anywhere that there's a gap along the bottom. Make sure you flip that little handle up so they can't slide. They can't like dig and pull the whole base out, that plastic thing out.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of tricks for doing that. And I have a question for you about it too, but I'm also going to throw out that when we were crate training a dog that has not been in a kennel, I always made it a fabulous experience. I gave them the cushiest memory foam bed possible, unless they ate it.
Yeah. So there's the caveat, right?
And I gave them toys that they only got in the kennel. I gave them treats that they only got when they went into the crate. Mm-hmm. And so we tried to make it a really, really special experience. So they want, and I always fed them in there too. And that way they knew, especially the really food motivated dogs were thrilled to go in there because they knew it meant food. So a question though, one of the things that I did do, and I hope it was the right thing, was for some of these dogs that were really overwhelmed, I covered their crate with I usually left the door open, but I covered it with like a blanket so that it really was like a little cave. I'm in this little cave.
Yeah.
I can't see, they're like, nothing can get me. And they go in and out the opening of the cave. Is that something
it's really specific to the dog, right? So some dogs really enjoy feeling enclosed and they can feel safer in that environment. Others, it might freak out. So it's just something you can try. The same goes for like DAP diffusers to release the mama hormone that can help some dogs really chill out. I've seen I'd say it's about 80% effective. You've got sound makers.
Yeah,
Some will replicate the sound of the womb. Others are just nice, you know, white noise makers. Those can really help. You really kind of have to tailor it to the dog, because some dogs really can't handle having all that stuff. The more sound, the more anxiety they have, or the more enclosed, the more nervous they become, or maybe they're the type that will pull the blanket through and eat it. So you kind of have to tailor it. Same goes for bones and stuff. I think giving bones and high value chew toys in a kennel is really, really great. But you do have to spend the time to monitor that interaction when you first give it to the dog, so that, especially if you're just getting to know this dog, you don't know what their eating style is. You don't know if they're a whole bone swallower or if they're going to take it easy. Speaking from experience here. Don't just hand them the toy.
What about placement of the crate? Like I had a lot of times we kept our dogs in the kitchen, so our foster dogs, so they were with us where we were most of the time. But I also had dogs that were really anxious, and sometimes I would move the crate to a really quiet space. Is there any rule on that, or is that again just dog by dog?
Yeah, I think it's just dog by dog. I think some dogs really need a quieter space. A lot of times we make a mistake by putting the dog's kennel in a completely different area of the house. I think that's usually a bigger issue, because then the dog feels very alienated, and dogs they're familial animals. They don't want to be cast away from everybody. So oftentimes leaving the dog in a more highly trafficked area in their kennel is a lot more effective than, say, like putting their kennels in a garage or something. If you want a dog to hate their kennel, put it in a garage.
Far away.
Yeah, it's not a good place for a dog for a lot of reasons. But yeah, so like I tend to tell my clients, especially when they have puppies, that they're acclimating, to have a kennel in their bedroom and in their living room, or to move their kennel from room to room, depending on what time of day it is, so that the dog is not completely abandoned in there.
Right. So we did 10 minutes, but I had one more question.
We can split this one in two.
You can stop and you can leave now. If you second crossed and you've had 10 minutes and we've already crossed our 10-minute line, we're trying not to cross our 10-minute line. But so I just wanted to touch really quickly on types of crates, because I have all kinds. I have a airline crates, I have a wire crate, and I have a soft-sided crate, which my dog Fanny recently broke out of, ate her way out of. I'm looking for someone to sew and repair it. Because they're so easy to take when you travel. Is there any general rules as to why would you use an airline versus a wire versus a soft-sided crate? So if somebody out here is watching, listening to this, and they're thinking, I need to crate train my dog, what kind of crate do they get?
Yeah, I always start with the wire, like cage like crates, because they're just a little bit more flexible in what they can do. They lay flat easier, take up less space for storage. They're easier to clean. Just in general, I can cover them if I need to. I can leave them uncovered if I need to. So those are my go-to, but they are the easiest to mangle and break out of. So if you have a Houdini, you definitely need to zip tie at the very least. If not, you might consider more of like an airline crate, like the hard plastic sides ones. Those are great for dogs who really like to be enclosed, who are going to be traveling in the future. If they do need to be flown somewhere or something, that's the crate to go with, so that it feels like home. They're also pretty easy to clean, not as easy. They definitely take up more space, but they have their own use for sure. In a lot of cases, you might need a covered crate that's like actually hard plastic, and they're a little bit harder to get out of in my experience. And then you've got your soft fabric and stuff. Those are just your luxury kennels. Those aren't really for any practical use, except to say, like, my dog who's already very comfortable in a kennel will go in there, and maybe they like to have, it's more of a house than it is a little kennel,
house.
right?
And it's so easy to take places with you, and you can unzip the top. I loved having it, especially when they were puppies. It was great when they were puppies, but then I don't remember what happened, why Fanny broke out of hers, but she tore her way out the side window. So now I'm trying to get it repaired. I don't know why, because you'll probably do it again, but I just thought we're going to take a trip this winter and I have to take 3 crates, and I would like to take that one because it's so light.
Well, and the last one to mention is the military grade kennels that are heavily enforced.
Super ones that no one can get out of.
Thankfully, they're more readily available than they used to be. We used to have to special order those suckers for a couple grand from specialty sites. And now you can buy one on Amazon if you want for $500. They're not cheap, but actually it might be cheaper than that in some places, but They are the reinforced kind. They've got the thicker bars. They are much harder to get out of. If you're training, you know, military dogs in these kennels, they're pretty secure. But those are really great for dogs who do Houdini out and who are very powerful. You know, your pit bull breeds and stuff like that, who have some who have figured out that they can get out of the kennel will often need one of those
and have the strength to do it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we went a little over, but sorry about that, everyone. We try not to do that.
It's okay. I think it was good info though.
Yep. So thanks for being here with us. Join us again. You can find us right now on the farfetchedpodcast.com, but we're going to maybe have our own place someday.
Yeah, we might move this over to its own RSS feed now that we've got so many of these episodes. Put them out weekly. Yeah. We get a lot of them.
We need more questions. So send us your questions. You can comment right on the Farfetched podcast, or you can message Crystal directly, or you can message me directly, or find us and send us your questions and we will attempt to tackle them.
Yes. All right. I'll see you next time, Cara.
Bye-bye.
Right,
see ya.
Bye.